I think that part of what I'm going to announce today will be as surprising as Christy Clark's announcing that she was seeking the leadership this morning. So I do have something to say about my own status, but I do want to put out a challenge to the leadership contestants in both the Liberal and the NDP leadership events. There was a comment made after that I was removed from the NDP caucus that effectively said that I had a problem in finding my happy place within BC's political party. And that caused me to reflect deeply on that fact, because I think that most British Columbians are struggling to find their happy place within the electoral process. Most British Columbians are not satisfied with the choices that were given at elections. That's seen in the ballot box, it's seen with the fewer and fewer voters who show up at the polls. It's also seen in poll after poll, and I think one of the more interesting ones was the Vancouver Sun poll that proposed a non-existent third party, and that non-existent party won the election over the two existing parties. This idea that parties get to control who the candidates are, parties get to control who the premier will be, is actually not the way a democracy is supposed to work. And as a consequence, my experience, as I reflected on it, has been an experience in which instead of coming down here as an MLA to participate in the governance of the province, I've been put in a situation, as all the MLAs are, into this perpetual partisanship and electioneering. And I think British Columbians are rightly disgusted by that. I think British Columbians are rightly walking away from the ballot box because of that. And so we need to recapture our democracy, and in order to do that, I think we need more independence in the legislature. I think the party system itself needs to be completely restructured, and this legislature needs to get back to how it was originally designed, and that is for every MLA, regardless of political affiliation, to be involved in the governance of the province day to day, and not be involved in electioneering day to day. We have a movement across the Western democracies that are echoing that. Right now in Australia, 4 independents hold the balance of power. One of those independents, Rob Oakeshott, is using that opportunity to drive fundamental reform in the parliamentary system in Australia. In the United Kingdom, and the place that our new Westminster parliamentary system was born, the MPs there are using the coalition government as an opportunity to drive fundamental reform of their parliamentary system as well. They've put forward a series of demands, demanding the changes so that Parliament once again gets supremacy over the Prime Minister's office. Because as we know here, people think that they're voting for an MLA come down here and govern, but what we get is a dictatorship of the Premier's office between elections, and that needs to stop. In fact, today, MLA Donna Barnett, up in my neck of the woods, is saying that it's too bad Bob is, an opposition MLA, not an independent, because the only way that people get served is if you're actually a government MLA. And that's forcing that division among the electorate, that you have to pick winners and losers in order to get fair representation. So I've decided that I will, and again, this is a part that's not necessarily a surprise, I will sit as an independent. I am going to sever my ties with the NDP, and I'm committing, and I don't normally do this, I normally wait until closer to an election to decide if I want to stay in the political frame. I will run in the next election as an independent. I will take that risk, and I will see if the electorate will support more independent voices in the legislature, and that Vicky Huntington's election last time wasn't an anomaly, but the beginning of a movement where voters reassert their right to have independent voices down here. But the second thing I want to do today is put a challenge out to all of the leadership candidates for both parties. And that challenge is to make a commitment to fundamental reform of our democratic system. Threefold commitment. First, on electoral reform. I know the British Columbians said no to STB, but anybody who takes a look at those 2 referendums knows that British Columbians are not happy with the first past the post system. It may not be STB, it may be something else, but we need to get back to that agenda so that every vote counts. Every British Columbian's vote counts, and people feel that their vote counts. The second part of the package is election finance reform. Carol James put that forward in the House as a private member's bill, and again, that's part of our problem, is private members' bills are a flash in the pan. We need to have a parliamentary process that recognizes and honors those bills. But I think all of the candidates in both parties now need to commit to fundamental election finance reform. British Columbians must know that their votes count against donations, that public policy cannot be purchased by donations. And in the case of the Prosperity Mine situation in my area, people are rightly asking the question, was the reason that the provincial government so fast to approve that mine because Taseko donated to the Liberal Party? Now that may be true and it may not be true, it doesn't matter. The fact that we can ask that question, and it's a legitimate question, shows that we need election finance reform, and coupled with that is strengthening of the Lobbyist Registration Act and enforcement of that act. And then the final piece that I ask the leaders to reflect on and make a commitment to, and I noticed Christy Clark is talking about some of those things today, and that is the reform of this legislative process. MLA should be involved in the formation of committees. MLA should be involved in who sits on those committees and the chairs of those committees. MLA should be involved in the formulation of legislation. That's what this place was built to do. Not to have something come out of the Premier's office, as we saw with the fundamental restructuring of Cabinet and all of the change in legislation that's occurred with the Natural Resource Operations Ministry. In that case, as Bill Bennett pointed out, even Cabinet ministers were not privy to that decision and have to live with the consequences of it. HST is another example, where MLAs on the Liberal side were caught off guard when legislation was brought forward to bring in a brand new task. We need MLAs involved from the ground, and we need legislative committees to have the right to engage the public in the formulation of legislation, because that's how this place was designed, and we need to get back to it. So I challenge all of the leadership candidates on both parties to commit, not just to renewal within their party, but to commit to renewal of this legislature and of our democracy in British Columbia. And that's the challenge I put out today, as well as indicating that I will remain and run as an independent.
Thinking of your